Hey everyone, Once Bitten here with another battle report. So I'm calling this game Battle of the Badasses. It's a 3,000 point, slightly larger game than normal. I really like this point level, 3,000 points with no Grand Army rules. Some of my more entertaining games have been at this level, and this one was no exception. My Beastmen against an Orc and Goblin army. Starting on the left, he's got a Mangler Squig, some Wolf Riders, a Spear Chuck, a large unit of Night Goblins with I'm pretty sure there's 3 characters in there. I thought there were 2, but when I looked at his list later, there's a goblin character that I can't figure out where he's at, and I'm assuming that he's in here. So, anyway, bunch of goblins with a few characters. Another Mangler Squig. Then he's got, and I've never played against this before, he's got a special character, Grimgor Ironhide, with his 38 immortals. So, these guys are kind of beefed up orc, or black orcs. They have hatred, and he has normally strength 7, and because of the chopper rules, strength 8 on the first round of combat. Rerolling to hit, strength 8. He is nothing. He is nothing to take lightly. And the unit he's with, I understand they can choose to have great weapons or choppa and shield or 2 choppas or whatever, and so they have the potential to be very high strength. As well. So here's a unit finally that I'm afraid to take my Doombull against, and I am absolutely afraid to take my Doombull against this unit. I have no idea how to handle it. He's got a regular troll next to it, a troll behind him, a small unit of Night Goblins. With those Night Goblins, he's got his Battle Standard Bearer as well as a level 1 Shaman. He's got the Arachnarok Spider, some more Wolf Riders. Then he's got the big horde of Savage Orc Biggins with 2 choppas. He's got the Great Shaman with a Lucky Shrunken Head. So he's got level 4. He's given them a 5 up ward save. That unit is no joke. Except that I've taken my Doombull against a unit like that before, and he did very, very well. So at least I feel like I have some option to deal with them. And he's got another Spear Chucker and a Giant. So I'm trying out a list. Probably in the very near future I'll do a video just on the kind of list I was starting to go for here, but I put together a 2,500 point list, and then I had to bump it up 500 points at the last minute for the game. So it's not true to the fluff that I wanted. But anyway, I've got some Scouting Harpies, a Tuskor Chariot, I believe 30 Gore with extra hand weapons, full command with my level 4 Great Shaman. He is naked except for the level 4 upgrade, taking the Lore of Shadow. You can see there's a Tuskor Chariot to the right of him, and then there's another Tuskor Chariot. Then there's my first unit of 6 Minotaurs. This one has my Battle Standard Bearer. He's a Gorebull with Armor of Destiny. Then there's a big blue spot. That's the Gorgon that I thought was in my list, and I think on turn 2 I realized that he wasn't in my list. I hate when I do that. So pretend he's not there. Behind him is a Brave Shaman level 2 Lore of the Wild, Chalice of Dark Rain. And this is what I was doing here is I want to get a Gorgon, the kind you can bring in anywhere using the Lore of the Wild. So I took 2 level 2s because I think with that you have a really good chance of getting the spell you want. So this one does not have that spell. He can buff me in combat, so I put him near my troops. And the Chalice of Dark Rain is a one-use only, hurts the enemy the shooting phase. Anyway, next to them is another unit of 6 Minotaurs. Again, has just like the other one, has a Standard Bearer and a Musician, no champion. And this one has my Gorebull. And he's got the normal kit that I always bring. So then I've got 2 more Chariots, some Ungor Raiders, and I brought them so that I could bring another unit. This one has 7. The other unit I have is 6, and I brought him Ambushing and forgot about him the rest of the game. Some more Scouting Harpies, and then I have 3 more Chariots, and then another level 2 Shaman. Now this one is the one that can summon a Gorgon, and so once he summons him, I want him away from everything. That's why he's tucked here in the corner. But he also rolled the spell, or he has the spell where he can move any unit. All units within 6 inches can surge ahead 6 inches. So, or can surge ahead d6 or something like that. So I put him near these Chariots so that if I wanted to do that, I could get them moving up faster. So what I was thinking here was pop the Chalice on the first turn so that his shooting is limited, and put my Harpies up to where they have a good chance of charging both of his Spear Chuckas on turn 1. and I'm just going to let him go first if he'll take it. I have 3 chariots over here to deal with his giant, and I want my Doombull against the Savage Orcs, and I have no clue what to do against his Black Orc unit except to cast the Pit of Shades on him as much as I can, and even then, I don't know. So anyway, he vanguards up with this one Wolf Rider unit. He wins the roll to go first, opts to take first turn, so he moves up like that. He charged his Wolf Riders at these Harpies. When I put him there, I knew that I was within easy charge reach, and I was okay with it because I found that Harpies stand up very, very well to lightly armored fast cav because I get to go first and they have 2 attacks each. So, this is not a foregone conclusion necessarily, but I'm confident that I have a decent chance of winning that combat, and I can still do the charge I want on my turn. His goblins failed their animosity test and had to charge my harpies, and they failed the charge. There we go. After combat, beat and ran down the wolves. Didn't even take a wound, and so I'm easily set up for flank to charge the spear chukka. Now, something else I was thinking about is just to leave the spear chukka alone and use the harpies to take out these mangler squigs. It'll cost me the unit of harpies, but those mangler squigs can really wreak havoc on my lines. And I felt that because with my chariots that I would be okay, that I'd have a way to handle them, so I decided to go ahead and use the harpies for the spear chukkas. So Beastmen turn 1. I move like that. Harpies on the left to charge the spear chukka. I'm taking that one chariot on the left. I'm hiding him behind the impassable terrain. I'm assuming his mangler squig is going to come in front of him. I just need him to become within 7 inches of my chariot so that I can move up and sacrifice the chariot. It's the only way to get rid of him. I think the points are about equal, so I'll take it. Let's see, this was kind of weird. During his magic phase, he moved a mangler squig behind my lines using the Hand of Gork, I think. And before he did that, I really had no way of dealing with the mangler squig in front of my lines because he has 2 of them, so the one towards the middle of the table. When he put him behind my lines, I moved my troops away and turned a chariot around and moved it and came in contact with it. Blew up my chariot, caused a panic test on my Gorb, which I passed, but got rid of the mangler squig. So personally, I felt that was a mistake on his part because I think he was wonderfully positioned in front of my lines. But yeah, he very likely was thinking that I would have, I might have got my Gore into him and just taken those hits on my Gore unit, and I don't think I was in range for that. Anyway, Beastman turn 1. If you look on the upper right, my harpies charged his spear chukka over there. There we go. Moving these guys up. And so this is when I realized, because I had to look at my list to look at the stats for the Gorgon, and it wasn't on my army builder printout. And that's when I realized, I remember putting them on the list. I must have taken them off. So I took them off the other side of the table when I cast the spell to bring them on behind my opponent's lines. So I apologized, and my opponent, he handled it the same way I would have. He just shrugged and said whatever, it didn't affect anything. So got a Gorgon behind his lines, which I kind of like. Beat won the combat here on the left, forced a panic test on his goblins, and he passed, which is kind of a bummer. Easily won the combat on the right. I didn't reform because I didn't want to have to, on my next turn, I wanted to be able to fly without taking dangerous terrain. We go to Orcs and Goblins turn 2. It looks like that. One thing that surprised me, he took the giant that was on my far right, and instead of charging chariots and forcing terror tests, he just moved it around to go help out with the Gorgon. So he is where you can see him. Otherwise, he's moved up fairly aggressively. I think he was too far to charge to get the charge, and he was worried that he didn't want to come up and allow me to multi-charge his units. So he is like that. That Mangler Squig moved right there, and so that's perfect. I can take my chariot against it, and that won't be a big deal. And anyway, yeah, I don't know why I'm showing you a million pictures here. Yeah, there's the giant that moved over. I mean, I guess he didn't want to be triple charged by my chariots, and he's probably had a good point because I had him outranged, so he's just saving the giant. And then during his magic phase, he Hand of Gorks the giant over to my Gorgon. And you know what? Again, I'm okay with that. I think the Gorgon, if nothing else, first of all, he may be able to handle all this stuff, and if he can't, he's taken the giant as well as those other units kind of away from everything else that was going on. So we go to Beastman turn 2, and this is where blood starts to spill. So let's see. The big news is I took 2 chariots into the front of the Ragnarok, and I charged my Doombull out of the Minotaur unit that he thought he was blocking with his troll, but he wasn't blocking my Doombull. And although I thought about charging the troll just to get revved up a little bit first, I thought it'd be better to go ahead and charge him into the Savage Orcs. He can beat them time after time. I'm really not worried about losing him, and I didn't want to take the whole unit in there anyway. So I went ahead and passed a frenzy test so that, again, I'm unsure about how that rule works if I really need to do that, but just in case, charged him out, reformed the Minotaurs. And so my plan here is I want those 2 Minotaur units together so that if I have to charge his Black Orcs, at least I'll get a combo charge there. I really think I'm going to lose it if I have to do that, though. So I went ahead and took a chariot and put him in front of that unit to sacrifice him, and then flew the Harpies on the left that killed the Spear Chukka, moved him behind his line so my next turn they can move up. And I just want to keep that Black Orc combat out of combat, that Black Orc unit out of combat as long as possible. You can see he's not weakened yet. I mean, I've been trying to get the Pit of Shades off on him, but he's been either scrolling it or I think first turn he just dispelled it. So here's the left. You can see I took my level 4 out of the unit. My Gorgon went ahead and charged the Wolf Riders. I'm going to overrun into the Troll. Here's the chariot taking one for the team. I was surprised so at this point in the game of how useful my chariots were to kind of support this function, because they can't march. But you know, the 7-inch movement was just seemed to be enough. And here's the important one. So the chariots going into the Ragnarok, I don't think I'm going to win that, or I think I'll win it, but I don't think I'm going to break him, and I think he'll win the War of Attrition there, because after the impact hits, I'm not going to hurt him very much. But if they can just do a lot of wounds to him to make him easier to handle later on, I'm okay with that. And my Doombull coming in here, the first round of combat, we're going to get a challenge with his champion, and so, you know, I'm confident. I think I'll do enough wounds that I'll be okay. I'll win combat. And after that, that unit isn't nearly as scary because they'll lose Frenzy and they'll lose that +1 strength their first round of combat. So I bring my chariots around here, around the side. I park my Harpies in front of that unit just in case something weird happens and I lose my Doombull. I do not want them to charge my Minotaurs in the flank. So they are redirecting that unit just in case. And what I'll do next time is I'll just charge them away so I can get these chariots into the flank of that Savage Orc unit. So after combat, it looks like that. Yeah, he loses one guy. I win combat. I get an extra Frenzy. He loses Frenzy. With the Ragnarok, yeah, I lost a chariot. I think I won combat, but he held up and whatever. And back here, predictably, my Gorgon beat the Wolf Riders, overran into the Troll. I've got 2 Frenzy markers, so when he comes in with his Giant, the Troll, I'm not really worried about the Troll doing much damage to me. I'm really worried about the Giant. So all my attacks are going to go against him, and I'll either get lucky or not. So turn 3 is his Black Orcs charge the chariot. Might as well just get out of the way. His plan is just to kill it and then reform. I think it's a good plan. He still has a Troll blocking one of my unit of Minotaurs. He doesn't want to get charged in the flank in case something weird happens. And yeah, so here's different angles. And this game was taking a long time, but it was a lot of fun. So he goes ahead and double charges my Gorgon. So I'm not worried about that as much as I'm just curious about it. This Gorgon, I mean, it's no points for me. I didn't have to pay for it except for I had a level 2 Shaman that, in theory, this Gorgon could die and it wouldn't hurt the Shaman. I just have to take a toughness test every time he takes a wound. So he repositions the Troll to again block this Minotaur unit. And again, this time I want to say I got in a challenge with his general. I just don't remember how it works. Anyway, his level 4 has taken a couple wounds, and I think I didn't get the challenge, and he didn't want to be in a challenge. So I allocated some attacks towards his spellcaster and other attacks towards the unit. And yeah, I won combat again. I'm starting to get revved up. So my guy's at 8 attacks now. So I'm starting to get happier with how he is. So very happy there. And over here, it's funny how it worked. I put all my attacks on the giant and all those wound markers behind him. I don't see how many wounds I did. I want to say 4. I'm just not sure. So he didn't wound me with his troll. His troll broke from combat and ran away. His giant rolled a 6 on the type of attack he does. So I had to take an initiative test, and I passed it. So he didn't do any wounds to me. But had I failed it, I would have taken, I think, 2d6 wounds, and that would have killed the Gorgon, probably killed the Brave Shaman. So passing that initiative test was huge. So now I'm very likely just to finish off the giant. We go to Beastmen turn 3. If you look on the left, I tried to move the Harpies up to block the Black Orcs, but I failed my march test, and so they didn't have the distance. So I moved them where you could see them. There's actually a reason behind it. And I moved my Gore unit up to sacrifice them to redirect the Black Orcs, which I didn't want to do, but I don't want the Black Orcs getting into my Minotaurs yet. My Minotaur unit on the right went ahead and charged the Troll, and the Minotaur unit at the bottom just moved away. I just don't want to be too close to that Black Orc unit. If you look in the middle, my Harpies that were on the right charged the flank of the Goblin unit, and he'll be steadfast, but I think I've got a decent chance of winning that combat. And it took 3 chariots into the flank of the Savage Orc unit. So there's the Harpies getting out of the way. That is not looking good for the Savage Orcs. I've got my Doombull, who's about to finish off a spellcaster, and then all of his attacks are going to start just whittling down that unit, and 3 chariots in the flank is going to whittle them down very quickly. So here's the middle. So I'm not worried about the Troll. I think we'll kill him pretty easily. And we'll start, they lost their frenzy when the Doombull left them, so they'll get them frenzy back. And here's just redirecting going on the left. I'm just trying to slow that Black Orc unit down. I need to get the Pit of Shades cast on him. And I think on this turn I finally got it cast. It doesn't kill many. I mean, even if I did direct hit, 12 would have to take a test. So I think I did get 12 taking the test. I think he lost 6, maybe 9, I don't know. So there's that. Yeah, ooh. I didn't appreciate before how much damage I did that turn. Wow. I killed his level 4. I mean, I had 3d6 impact hits. I got a revved up Doombull. Yeah. And you can see I forgot to put a token on the Doombull, so he's not even as tough next combat as he should be. Now, if you look at the Harpies on the right, those are the ones that flew into the flank of the Goblin unit, and I lost 3 of them and lost combat and fled. So that didn't go quite as expected. And if you look at the top, yeah, revved up Gorgon, he's got 4 frenzy markers on him now, slaps around the giant, and he is behind his lines. He has taken a wound, and every time he takes a wound, I have to take a toughness test with my spellcaster. I'm toughness 4. I've got a 2/3 chance of passing that test, and I failed it. And whenever I've done this strategy in the past, I think I'm 100% failing toughness test every time the Gorgon's taken a wound. It's amazing. He just, yeah, whatever. And over here, the troll is dead, and we had to overrun d6, and so we stopped right by the Ungor Raiders, whom I'm playing miserably. I am not using those guys well at all this game. We go to Orcs and Goblins turn 4. The left is going to take a little bit of explaining. I might have to do that later, but basically he takes his Ragnarok. After he killed my chariot on my turn, he charges the Minotaurs, and I am okay with that. Other than that, he turns his Goblin unit around to face my Gorgon, and I could care less either way. I'm going to charge him in there and be happy about it. Anyway, he doesn't have a whole lot left to move around. Here on the left, his goblins were up in that water. They charged my Harpies, and I decided to flee because I knew my flee move would put them right in front of the Black Orcs. And then he redirected to my Gore unit, and I just held. And so I forgot just the order this went. I think the Black Orcs charged my, whatever. Anyway, I'm confused. But the Gore unit ended up fleeing from the Black Orcs. They ended up where that blue mark is. The Goblins charged my Harpies. They ended up where you see them. They redirected to my Orcs, caught them, and reformed. And the Black Orcs did not redirect into the Harpies because he did not want to be stuck in front of my Minotaurs offering me a flank. And that's precisely what he would have done. So he decided just to stop there an inch away from the Harpies. So here's an angle as a Ragnarok coming into my Minotaurs. I'm actually getting two. It doesn't look like it here because the models wouldn't fit, but I have two in the front rank in combat. So that's 5 attacks each because they have extra hand weapon and frenzy. So that's 10, 16 attacks going on that Ragnarok. I'm pretty confident I can do well there. And yeah, that's not looking good for him. I think, yeah, I don't even know if that's before or after combat. I'm confused. So over here, he comes in. I do a ton of wounds on the spider. I don't know how many. The markers are behind it. I want to say 4 or 5, something like that. Whatever. He does 1 wound to me, which was just really, really unlucky. He really should have done more than that. So those Minotaurs are starting to get revved up now. Go to Beastmen turn 4, and my Gorgon comes charging into the Goblins. My Doombull with chariots are still whittling down that Savage Orc unit. I take my Battle Standard Bearer out of the Minotaur unit. He's right behind my General. And I do a swift reform with the Minotaurs. It's the only thing I can hope for because I don't have anything left to redirect the Black Orc unit. And they pass their swift reform. I had a reroll, but still. And so they reformed and moved up. And then it was dicey trying to stay away from the Harpies and away from my Minotaur unit. You have to keep an inch away from both. But I was able to do it to where the Black Orcs just barely cannot see me. So there was that. And there's my Battle Standard Bearer out. I'm just congested in the middle, but I'm actually really confident about all these fights. I think my Gorgon's going to wipe the table with the Goblins, and I put a chariot in the flank of the Goblins, so very happy about that. The Savage Orcs are about to die. The Ragnarok's about to die. Yeah, 4 frenzy markers on that bad boy. Yeah, that's not going to go well for the Night Goblins. And I get the Pit of Shades off for the second time on the Black Orc unit. So now they're starting to get manageable. And yeah, it's only gone off twice on them. And each time I felt that it just wasn't quite doing enough. But I'm not going to complain. They're starting to get manageable. After combat, oh, I couldn't believe it. Look at the very top. The Gorgon is gone. Those stupid goblins did 2 wounds on him. And so my Brave Shaman already has taken a wound, right? So he has to take 2 toughness tests. He fails them both. He dies. Gorgon goes away. Darn it. That was I really didn't think it would go like that. Anyway, you see the Doombull is freed up from the Savage Orcs now, so he just reforms. They're all dead. The Minotaurs killed, or the Minotaurs had killed the Ragnarok, and since he was dead, they just reformed. And now I like how we're looking. Yeah, there's that combat. I can't believe it. The Gorgon dying to goblins. If you're going to die to something worth... Yeah, that's not quite so embarrassing. So we go to his turn. He decides just to reform his Black Orcs. There really was nothing else he could do. So he gave himself ranks, moved his goblins up to support a little bit. And now we're finally coming down to it, because I've got revved up Minotaurs, a revved up Doombull, and I've got my Gorebull. So I can do a triple charge into his Black Orcs, and I'll get to swing before him, and I should be okay. Yeah, so over here, this chariot's not going to last for long. He brings his troll over just because he could. And we go to my turn, and the Doombull fails his charge. I needed a 6, and he failed it. I was so disappointed. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with his Grimgor guy, because my Doombull really can't stand up to strength 8, and both of us were at ASF, and I think we both have the same initiative, so we probably had a good chance of just killing each other. Maybe not, because I don't know how many attacks he has. But anyway, I was kind of worried about that, but I certainly wanted the D3 impact hits and all those attacks and all that, and he failed it. So now my Minotaurs are in there, and my Doombull is in there. He's going to issue a challenge with Grimgor Ironhide, and I have to accept it with my Battle Standard Bearer because I don't have a champion, and my BSB can't hide because he's not with that unit. And now I'm glad that I took the 4-up ward save, because no matter how high strength he is, it doesn't matter. I should save half the wounds. So I'm really nervous about this combat going into it. This unit is tough as nails. He decides to go with the Choppa and Shield, I think just to get the parry saves. So up here I was able to throw one chariot at the troll, and then throw another chariot to support the ugly chariot. The ugly chariot, that's kind of a long story, but I didn't have enough chariots, and I wanted to playtest this army before I committed to buying and continuing to build and paint, because it's a lot of work. Anyway, so I charge a chariot in to help with the goblins. The top chariot's going to beat the troll in combat, not catch him, but overrun into that combat, so I have 3 chariots in there. And so then we go to the magic phase, and I always curse Lore of the Wild. I think it's the most worthless lore. It's got some funky spells, but they're whatever. Well, he was really worried about my level 4 casting the strength reduction on his black orcs, which is what I really wanted to do. So I threw a diversionary spell out there with my level 2. This thing is called the Mantle of Garruk or something, but it gives you plus to a character within 6 inches, plus d6 attacks and plus d6 strength. I get an irresistible force. The miscast doesn't even wound my caster, wounds a few raiders, and then I roll for plus 6 attacks and plus 4 strength. Are you kidding me? He decides to go ahead and go through with the challenge because he knows he's going to go first, and I only have 4 wounds, and he's strength 8. So he's going to go ahead and do that, hoping he can kill my BSB. But if he doesn't, my BSB has a lot of attacks. So after combat, yeah, so this is a new one. So we go to the challenge. He does, I want to say 4 wounds to my Battle Standard Bearer, and I take my 4-up ward save and save 3 of them. So I've only taken a single wound. I do all my attacks. I've got all my base attacks, which I'm blanking out right now how many that is, but it's probably 4. I'm frenzied, so that's 5. And I get 6 more, so I get 11 attacks at strength 9. And I do 2 wounds. This Grimgor Ironhide is tough as nails. He's got a 1-up armor and a 5-up ward. All those attacks, I do 2 wounds. He has 3 wounds. And then I get my stomp attack, and I stomp him at strength 9 and take the last wound off of him. It was awesome. I think I did a happy dance. I can't believe my Gorebull stood up to that beast. Anyway, my Minotaurs go in there, and I have 33 attacks on those bad boys. And out of 33 attacks, I did 25 hits. Just absolutely insanely lucky. Out of 25 hits, I did 19 wounds. And then I did stomps, and then I obliterated the unit. I put the little blue rectangle there to hide the guys that are dead. When all was said and done, he had his front rank. That's it. And the front rank went ahead and, he had a few more guys before stomps, but that front rank still killed 2 Minotaurs. He rolled fairly well for what he had left, but I got to go first. I broke him in combat. Of course, I couldn't run him down. And at that point, we had to call the game. We just ran out of time. It was too late in the evening to continue. If you look at the top, the 3 Minotaurs, 3 chariots are in combat with a Night Goblin unit. 1 was already there, but 2 had fresh charges, and I did a total of 5 wounds. Just insanely unlucky. We all stuck around, but I think if we went to his turn, they still would have stuck, and on my next turn, the Doombull would have charged in there, and we would have won that very, very easily. I would have chased him down. I think here in the middle, his I don't know what he would have done with his goblins. My guess is he wouldn't have charged in. I don't think I could have caught his black orcs at the end of the game, because they were 1 inch away from me after this combat. His turn, he would be on Snake Eye, so he'd probably run 2d6. Then on my turn, if I charged him, he would go 2d6. I don't think I was going to catch him. He's going to save all those points. But regardless, it was a win to the Beastmen and a fun game. I hope you enjoyed it.